Good morning. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Scott Hawley, I'm the Assistant Chief. And today we're here to do a quick review of our portable radios, their buttons, knobs, and functions, and also of the radio channel template and how to maneuver through that. Yeah, so we're doing a quick review today because it's been a couple years now that we implemented the new radio channel template. And recently we've had some situations where we've been asked to go to channels that we don't typically use on a daily basis. So there was some questions about that. So we just want to make sure everybody's able to function properly in the times of need. Okay, so to start off, we'll start with the portable radio, and we'll just go through its knobs and buttons and functions, and then we'll move on to the lapel mic and go from there. So on the top of the radio, we'll start here with the knobs and buttons there. Obviously, the first one we'll talk about is the orange button, which is the emergency activation button. And that's a button most people already know what to do is you push it, hold it for a second in an emergency, and then emergency tones go off in the communications center. And you are allowed 10 seconds of open air time, which will override everybody else's radio traffic to get your Mayday information out or your emergency information out. To clear that, if it's an accidental trip, you push and hold the button again for 3 to 5 seconds, and that will clear the evacuation tone or the emergency tone. Or you can turn the radio off and then turn it back on. Next to that is the channel selector knob, which is pretty self-explanatory. It just changes the channels on the radio, and there's a series of numbers from 1 to 16 that go around that knob. At the bottom and in front of the knob is a little toggle switch, which has an open circle and a circle with a line through it. This is a lock function for the soft keys on the back of the radio that we'll talk about in a minute. If it's on the circle with the line through it, the keys are locked. If you move it to the open circle, the keys are unlocked and will be functional. Also next to the selector knob is another toggle switch, which is labeled A, B, and C. And that's for you to quickly zone through the A, B, and C zones, which we'll talk about on the radio channel template here in a minute. And then next to that is the on-off switch, which once you turn it on, the front display screen will light up. It'll announce what channel you're on. And as you can see on the front display screen, it'll start toggling through what channel you're on and what your radio unit and position identifier are. Okay, on the back of the radio now, you have another display screen. And when the radio's turned on, you can see the top line has what zone of the channel template you're on and also what channel you're on. And then below that, it'll have your unit identifier and what position you are on that rig. Below that screen are 3 soft keys with dots 1, 2, and 3 on them. The 2 you need to be concerned with will be the ones with a 1 dot and a 2 dot because those are the keys you will use to zone up and down through the radio channel template. Below that is a little button with a house on it that you'll need to be familiar with, and that's just a quick way to get back to the A zone and the dispatch channel. Keep in mind, these soft keys, in order for these soft keys to function, the toggle switch we talked about on the front has to be in the unlocked position. And there's also a 1 second delay on these buttons, so you have to push it and hold it for 1 second before any of the zones will change. Okay, next, if we look to the right side of the radio, there's a little purple button at the top and the push to talk button in the middle. Obviously, the push to talk button, you have to push it in and hold it in order to activate the radio and to give any transmissions. The button above that, the little purple one, you can push it once, and what it does is it lights up your display screen. If you push it and hold it, it will flip the display screen on the top to where it's upside down. And then also below the push to talk button are 2 smaller buttons that are unprogrammed, so they won't do anything. So on the left side of the radio is where your lapel mic hooks up to, and that's obviously this. The lapel mic has a channel selector knob on top as well, which again has the same 16 channels as the selector knob on the radio. There's also an additional emergency activation button, orange here, that functions the same as the one on the radio. The little button here on the side is a volume button. You push it up to change the volume up, you push it down to change the volume down. And then on the side of it is also a push to talk button, just like the radio. And then there's a button at the bottom, which again is unprogrammed. So this basically just gives you an extension of the functions at the top of the radio for convenience. Okay, now we'll move into the radio channel template. And the way it is set up, it is all color-coded for ease of operation. And at the bottom of the channel template is a color-coded key that you can use to tell you what each of the colors mean. And we'll go through all those here. Starting at the top, coming down the side of the template are the zones and what the names of those zones are. And you can see the first three here are labeled A, KCKFD, B, medical, and C, mutual aid. Those are the three zones that you can quickly navigate to by using that ABC toggle switch next to the channel selector knob. 99% of everything we do will be in these three zones. The first zone, the A zone, as you can see, is all red, and those are our dispatch channel and all of our fire department TAC channels, and then also some talk around channels. The B zone is blue, which is all the medical channels. So in that zone are the primary channels that you will use for transporting patients to hospitals. In the C zone, we have it set up as a mutual aid bank. We have the first four channels are Bonner Springs and Edwardsville's dispatch channels and TAC channels, which we no longer typically use because they are working on our dispatch and TAC channels now, but they're still there in case we need them. The next four, being orange, are regional comm channels, and all the regional comm channels on the whole chart are orange. These are the primary ones that we would have been assigned by the region as fire department use. The RegComm 4 is an air-to-ground channel for if we're working with helicopters, and that can be law enforcement or medical. And then the next three, 7, 8, and 9, have been deemed the primary fire and EMS channels for if we're working regionally with other agencies. Then we move into lighter yellow ones, which are some of the Leavenworth County support channels, which will be used for all the different townships in Leavenworth County that border Wyandotte County for our mutual aid response. So again, 99% of everything we do can be accessed through these three zones. If we move on out of those three zones and you get into the next four, which are marked or A, B, C, and D, those are additional medical facilities that we can transport to, but maybe won't do on a daily basis. So if they're not in that B zone, you'll have to zone down to get to those. Below that is a fire department encryption zone where we have two TAC channels that are encrypted, even though we don't typically use them. Moving down again, we get into a WICO zone, which are Wyandotte County common channels that anybody in Wyandotte County that's on our radio system, can access to use for any type of events. We typically use those for like the race weekend when we're at the Speedway. We operate on a common zone so other people can have access to it. Moving down two more zones, you get back into the orange ones here, which are the regional comms ones. But instead of just the primary ones that we use, we have every one of their channels listed in these two zones. And this is where, if we're working with another agency in the metro, they might choose to select a channel that's not in our C zone, so you will have to zone down to get to those. Below that is the Leavenworth County, which is all of Leavenworth County support channels, their dispatch channel, a couple of their EOC channels in case we have events there we need to work with. And then also at the very end are the Leavenworth City dispatch and fire department TAC channels in case we mutual aid with them for that reason. The bottom zone in purple is this bank of common channels for Johnson County that can be used for if we're doing training events or evolutions with them, so we don't tie up regional TAC channels. On the back side of the chart, the majority of it is all white. And what this is the statewide template. And this is broke up by different zones, which are basically broke up by different regions across the state. And we have all of this because the state of Kansas is on a different radio network than what the region is. So we have all of the channels here in case we need to go somewhere else into the state that's not part of our regional radio system. This is something we will rarely use. The bottom two zones, as you can see, are back to red, so they're fire department related. And this is a channel for every single individual station, so you can only hear the traffic for that specific station. This is where you would want to monitor your station for calls when BPU's doing a fail-soft test. Now, what we'll do is we'll talk about how to zone through those to get to those channels. So again, A, B, and C on the toggle switch will get you to any of the A, B, and C channels, and then use the channel selector knob to move whatever you want. So for instance, RegComm 7 is a big one for us for fire department use. So from the A zone, channel selector 1, you can just move the toggle switch to C, and then change the channel selector knob
Regional Comm 7
until you get to the Regional Comm 7 channel. And that's all there is to it. To get back to dispatch, just go back to dispatch, move the toggle switch back to A, and you're back to the home zone, which is where we typically operate. I know recently there's been some events where we've needed to go deeper into the RegComm channels and what's in our mutual aid zone. So to do that, we'll go to the back of the radio, Again, make sure the toggle switch is in the unlock position on the front so your soft keys work. And the only tricky part here is you have to zone up to move down the chart. So starting in the A zone, and we move down to the regional comm zones, you're going to push the button that says zone up, and you're going to hold it for 1 second, and every time you do that, it's changing zones. And you'll want to do that until you get to where it shows Reach Comm A. Now, if you want to go to Common Channel 5, then that's where now that you're on Reach Comm A, you would just turn the selector knob until you get to Common 5. If you need to move further down into that chart to for instance, one of the 20 channels of the Reach Comms, you just zone up again to Reach Comm B zone, and then change the selector knob until you get to, for instance, Common 20 here. If for some reason you forget how to get back to the A zone and the dispatch channel, this is where we talked about the home button. You can push and hold it for 1 second.
Dispatch.
And it takes you back to KCKFD and dispatch. The only thing you will remember to need to do is to go back to your channel selector knob and turn it back to channel 1. All right, so that's kind of the gist of it all. So just as a quick recap, we've got over the radio, what the buttons and functions work for that, the lapel mic, and how to navigate through the channel template and how it is set up and color-coded for ease of use. So if you have any further questions or any concerns, please reach out to me and let me know. I'll be happy to help you out. You can email me or you can call me. And if you don't have a channel template in your rig like you did at one time, let me know and I'll get you a new copy. It is also on the tablets in PDF form. And I know the only issue we have there is with the new iPads, we're going to have to create a link to access it. But for those of you that have a tablet, it's accessible there. And please let me know if you need more hard copies.